All right, so this is two astrophysicists debate free will. What do y'all think? Do you think free will exists? I don't know if I do. I don't think it exists. I don't even know what it would mean for something to have free will, because if you're making decisions internally, you must have a rationale for those decisions. There's not just some spontaneous thing happening in your brain where thoughts pop into there. There's internal workings that lead to you making those decisions. So for me, it's just a very complex web of dominoes leading to you to make certain decisions, and that can be calculated if you had all the knowledge of the synapses and the factors that led you to make that decision. You could predict what decision you could make, and I don't think that's free will. So I don't even know what free will would mean. How would that even happen?
Here are notes
Okay.
on free will.
Goated podcast, Neil DeGrasse Tyson.
It is true that at some level of resolution that we can observe, causality is absolutely true. Given these initial conditions, this is what will happen afterwards.
That's the physicist in
That's
you
the
speaking.
physicist in you speaking. So if you take it to its logical conclusion, then there is no free will, because everything is predetermined by things that
Everything has an antecedent.
whether you know it or not, something is causing it to happen.
Something precipitated the thing that caused the thing that made
it's
that
always going to happen. But
What would have to be true for there to be free will, where there would have to be some sort of randomness that is inserted into decision making outside of the physical world that could only be explained with something outside of the physical world. So it would have to be a metaphysical occurrence that's happening there.
there is also stochastic uncertainty in the universe. It's built in. There's randomness, there's unpredictability. Yeah. And so you have to ask, I think, if you're a physicist, what level of chaos actually affects you to the extent that you could actually make an instantaneous decision based on other stuff that's not necessarily in your past experiences or what you have just seen in your current environment. Right?
But wouldn't all those past experiences and your current environment, despite the fact that if you're introducing an element of chaos so that you've never experienced this ever before, your experiences that you have had would then inform your decision about the thing that you've never experienced.
Your inform is the word.
Oh.
Is it inform
Rather than
or dictate?
predicate. Right.
Or require. Right. That's the thing. Let's say
But it informs what? What is there outside of your experiences? What are you outside of your experiences? Like, what is there inside of your brain that would exist for you to look at information and then decide it rather than the information actually causing the decision yourself? I think it's just an illusion of control. Like, we feel like we can ponder a decision, but in reality, the illusion of free will is instilled in us, into our experience. And we're just making decisions based on information that we might not be consciously thinking of. Given the same setup and scenario in histories, two separate parallel universes that are exactly the same, I don't think one of you in one universe could make a decision this way and the other one who had the exact same identical experience could make a different decision.
you're in a room with a whole bunch of audience members, you tell a joke.
Right.
It falls flat. In that moment, you have many things you could do to turn it into a laugh point.
True.
Right? You hear silence and you'd be like, oh, that was good. And then everyone laughs. Or, so you make some
Or
sort
is
of
this
comment.
mic on? That's the old one.
Right.
What do you do? Do you have the freedom to choose one of several choices that you had designed from your past, that you prepared to deal with that eventuality? Or is the choice made for you already?
But if he was less experienced, he might not dig out of that hole
Yes.
as effectively or efficiently.
Exactly.
But if you've been in 100 cases where you had a joke bomb,
Right.
you have data on how to pull out of it.
Exactly.
So statistically, you have a chance of getting people
And it
to
happens
smile.
instantaneously.
Right
You
in
don't
the
even
moment.
realize that it's happening.
It's in the moment.
So it's in the moment. Right.
Did you have free will to not?
See, that's right.
Right.
So now
I think if you're thinking about the fact that you have free will in those moments, then yes, you could make the opposite decision, do something more random, do something you wouldn't otherwise do. So instead of making a joke on stage and trying to continue, you could say, okay, I'm going to exercise my free will and not do that and just stand here silently for the next 30 minutes just because I want to prove that I have free will. But even you being cognizant of that is not based on your free will, because you thinking about free will is what led you to do that.
That would be interesting, because here you are in a place where your instinct, your training, and your
10,000
desire,
10,000 hours,
right,
whatever it is,
will, as a reflex, cause you to say this, this, and this, and then people go, wow, that was great. Look how he turned it around.
So, Charles, can I say in that comment that he preloaded his neurosynapses so that in that moment, they all tripped.
Right.
They tripped, meaning triggered, to go to the solution to that problem.
Right.
The same is true.
But then I wouldn't have free will at that point.
That's
it
what
would
I'm
just
saying.
be a response. What I would have is a response to a situation, not necessarily. I wasn't really choosing that.
It chose it for you.
It chose it for me.
You have 5 choices, and then your system chooses one of the 5 or whatever,
in that moment.
in that moment, right? And so in that moment, you are not exercising free will. Did you set it up, though, with free will in the past so that you could react this way deterministically, but you actually were in control of the circumstance, right? Here's another physical example of that. A football player is trying to sack a quarterback. The quarterback jukes left. The person trying to sack the QB doesn't have enough time to think about whether to move left or right or up or down. It has to react based on years of training and practice and experience. So in that moment, that action is not free. But in the setting up of that moment, if it was free enough, does that constitute free will? From a physics perspective, it might.
I think it's just pushing the ball further, no pun intended, but I think it's just pushing the ball further back. I just think it's pushing the argument further back, because at any step, there are certain things that are preloaded for you to make those decisions, to set up other decisions, to set up other decisions. We're just one big bag of decisions, our whole entire life, that is pushing us forward.
Might not. Then again, from a psychological point of view or from a biological point of view, it might.
Wait, what good are you if you're not landing on one side or the other? I don't need you to say, it could be this, it could be that. And I'm right both ways.
Yeah.
Whichever the actual answer is, I was right.
Yeah. Well, he's saying, I don't really have the free will to make that determination. I'm going to be right or wrong.
Let's just ask an opinion. In my opinion, I would like to have free will exist in this universe, even though philosophically it can be argued that it does not exist.
Are you happy with a world where you perceive free will even if it isn't?
Maybe. This has to do.
I think you are. The answer to the question is yes, because if you perceive free will, there's no difference to you than whether it or not it exists. You have no ability to discern between what is true and what you perceive to be true. All we have is our perceptions. That's why I feel like even though I don't believe in free will, I'm perfectly fine with it, because my brain automatically functions as if it does have free will. So I still experience that illusion of free will. A lot of people think that if you don't think that you have free will, then your brain just breaks and you're not going to be able to live life. You're going to just feel like, what's the point of anything? But the illusion doesn't break. Like, if you can look at an optical illusion and know how it works, and you can still experience the optical illusion, you can still see it both ways. Like, you remember the blue and black dress or white and gold dress? You know, once you understood how the image worked, once you saw the image both ways, you could flip between seeing it either way and still be fine with knowing the correct answer. And now I forget what the correct answer was, but I think it was white and gold, or was it black and blue? I don't know. Just because you understand something is an illusion doesn't mean that you can't still see the illusion.
With the movie Arrival, right, starring Amy Adams,
Yes.
where if you know how your future is going to turn out, would you like to live your life anyway? Right? And the answer is yes, I would. But I still would like to think that the future is not yet predetermined.
No, but know what? It's different. I'm not saying it's predetermined.
Yeah, that's different, because even if your life is predetermined, there's too many factors going on. It's too chaotic to be able to predict how it's going to turn out. You'd have to have some magical machine tell you how it's going to turn out. So that's a totally different scenario. Us living in a predetermined world that we can't predict what happens is exactly the same as what free will would suggest. It's going to feel like there's free will because we can't predict it one way or the other anyways.
And you know it. Mm-hmm. I'm saying, would you still be happy with life if some alien said, look, dude, your life is predetermined. There's nothing you can do about it. Keep on believing you have free will. And then they go back to their planet.
You're a puppet on a string.
A puppet on a string.
That's
from a free will puppet.
You're a free will puppet on a string.
What I would say in that case is that I would hope that the knowledge that I have that puppet on the string circumstance allows me to circumvent it. I can find a way. If it's fate, right? You've seen so many Greek mythology stories where you try to avoid the fate of whatever the gods have destined for you.
And the act of avoiding it
is what makes it happen.
Like Oedipus, for example.
Oedipus
right.
would be the most
famous
egregious example. Yes.
Sorry.
So the bottom line is, yes, I would still be satisfied with trying to do something different, because even the illusion of trying to do something different is in itself a form of free will. Physics-wise, though,
I don't think it's a form of free will. It's just the illusion of free will. You thinking you have free will doesn't mean that your decisions aren't predetermined.
It's not.
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Neil, if you had to right now decide that free will does exist or doesn't exist, what would you prefer?
My thinking over the recent years, because I didn't used to think about this at all, my thinking over recent years is leaning towards the absence of free will for practically everything we think and do in our lives. And I base that on the fact that over time, things that we have done as people in our species, at one time was, you are totally to blame for that, or just something you did, or something we've learned, no, this person is more susceptible than you are to addiction.
Right.
There's a biochemistry there. This person cannot just be made the life of the party because they're on the autism spectrum. They don't control that in the way you might think they should, just because you're the life of the party. As you add up all of these things, let's go back to epilepsy, where before that was even a word, you were occupied by the devil. Did you do something bad? Well, you knew it was not, everyone knew you were not in control of it, but today, no one is saying, did you have the free will to not have an epileptic seizure? Of course not. Do you have the free will to not be depressed? The person who's ready to jump off the bridge, in that instant, do they have the free will to not jump off the bridge? I don't think so. And the more I add up and explore the human condition, I'm forced to conclude that the direction we are headed is that we are all products of an absence of free will. And as a result, society needs more compassion for people who do not otherwise fit in.
That's my guy right there. That's why I like Neil deGrasse Tyson. The way he says some stuff, the way he puts things and communicates things is just so brilliant sometimes. I think like he's become a meme in the past 5 years in certain ways, but like we need to cherish this man. This guy puts things so eloquently. That's so well said. Yeah, I think we do need to have more compassion for the decisions that people make. Not saying we should just allow all evil in this world and, just free all murderers from prison because it wasn't their fault. That's not what I'm saying. Even though on a fundamental level, I don't think they had the free will to make those decisions. I think society is still safer with treating everybody as if they do have free will for those types of instances. But for people's characteristics and the way that they are and their likes and interests and their mannerisms, these are all things that are predetermined, and people can't really help if they have a certain characteristic and they don't want to do certain things. Like they don't need to fit in to be considered a human for us to have compassion for them.
I have the exact opposite position
Uh-oh.
in my own mind. I feel that it is because of the absence of free will that you see in most behavior, that it is that 1% of free will activity that moves us in the right direction, bends us toward compassion, takes the arc of history toward justice.
But but going back to what Neil just said, there are people who actually suffer from personality disorders, that suffer from brain disorders, where they can't do what you just said. They can't express compassion.
Chuck,
they can't move
there
towards
was a day when no one even thought to analyze it that way, as a brain disorder.
Yeah, you were just an a-hole.
Yeah, exactly.
That was it.
Now, if they can't, you can. You can show that person compassion or understanding. And therefore, free will as an entity exists.
Charles, you're drawing a line that I have seen be in constant motion over the decades and over the centuries. That line that you're saying, they don't have free will, but I do. I don't know that I can.
See, I have free will over some things and not over others. Okay. Someone can see me and say, that person needs help in this way and has the free will to help me. I see somebody else who needs this help and free will. Together, it is a network. It's not that any...
I think your brain is just wired to make certain decisions. He's saying he chooses to be compassionate, and it's on certain people to choose to be compassionate. But I think those people are just automatically wired to be more compassionate in certain instances and not compassionate in others. Yes, you can change, but being influenced by other people and saying that you should be compassionate is not free will in itself. Just because somebody convinces you to do something, that's not you enacting in free will, because I think you're just predetermined to do that given the right arguments presented to you. So I don't understand this argument. I feel like it's not getting to the core of what free will actually is. He's just saying that he has free will for certain things, but not actually saying how it actually works.
So you have to draw the line for every individual and even perhaps for society.
Okay.
Does the criminal who's born in poverty have free will to not be a criminal if most of the people in prison came in below the poverty line? So there's some sociological force operating there.
So
where we are less susceptible to that force.
I think that's a great question, analogy. Let's say this. Say those folks who have been branded criminals by our society are incarcerated.
Yes.
We can then, who we're fortunate enough not to face those same circumstances, who are not incarcerated, can look at these incarcerated people and instead of saying we must keep them away from society, welcome them back.
So that's called restorative justice.
Yeah, that's a free will example of the exercise of free will
of society
toward individuals who may not have had the options, had the life experience to recover from a bombed joke.
I saw an old movie where there's a guy who was a junkie.
Yeah.
Right? And he needed help, but they said, no, the cops came and arrested him because he was a junkie.
Right.
Today, you wouldn't do that.
Right.
You would say the person needs help.
They need, right.
Even if that person had robbed somebody, that person needs treatment. And the people who cannot shake whatever it is that afflicts them tells me that free will cannot be as free as we think it is. Do you remember the shooter in the University of Texas at Austin?
I remember that one.
Okay?
Yeah.
There's a movie they made out of it called The Tower, where he left a note saying, I just want to kill people. Something must be wrong with my brain. Please, when I die,
look into this.
They looked, and there was a tumor putting pressure on a part of them. In fact, that's how we learn anything about how the brain works when you have situations like this.
Person had the free will to write a note. He had the free will to write the note. So he did not have the will to resist shooting. But that's the line that you were talking about is a partial one.
Why isn't that line always?
But I don't think he had the free will to write a note. I think there's still some compassionate side to him that you can still have parts of your brain that realize what you're doing is wrong, and still feel bad about what you're doing, even though you are going to do what you do. There's different emotions. There's different forces that push you to do certain things inside you that are constantly at odds with each other. And I don't think that you're controlling all of those forces. I think your decision making comes when one of those forces overrides the other. And in certain things, when you're taking two contradictory actions, like writing a note about how you feel bad about killing people and then killing people, those things can survive in conjunction with each other because our brain is not one coherent thing. That's kind of what we were talking about in one of my previous videos where we were talking about split brain disorder. Your brain has multiple different parts for it competing and working separately that communicate with each other, but they're still working separately.
It's in motion as we learn more and more about how the mind works.
It is.
Okay, so then maybe it's a line of convenience today, but tomorrow we're going to find out, oh my gosh, that person has no real free control over their behavior, over their personality, over their tendencies, over their treatment of others.
It's not a line of convenience. It is, in your words, a perimeter of ignorance. When Newton said we couldn't explain certain things, right? God must have done it.
Of course.
That's a God of the gaps.
Of course.
That delineates what we don't know. The line you describe, I hope, is in fact that perimeter of ignorance which we slowly are moving toward and moving so that we do understand what the true nature of free will is.
So this is where people will push back. Most people are concerned not about the actions, but the consequences. So what they're thinking about is the punitive response to someone who does something wrong. And is a punitive response a deterrent for somebody doing something wrong or doing something wrong in the future?
Especially if they don't have the free will.
Right.
So there's the other side of this entire analysis is how does society interact with people who are being brought into the circle. Day by day, we're learning what we have control over and what we don't, biophysiologically, intellectually, emotionally.
Yes.
Why do people need anxiety meds? Do they have the freedom to not
they have
be
children.
anxious?
That is why. That is why I'm telling you, I'm taking them every day, and I got 3.
Most people think about how people are going to be punished for their wrongdoings rather than thinking about preventing them, rather than thinking about, reform. They'd rather punish somebody for the consequences because it's much easier to do that. You just make somebody hurt who has hurt other people rather than changing someone's mind and giving them the help that they need for them to get better so that their brain doesn't function that way, or that they at least have some control. I know we're talking about free will, but control in the sense that their brain is less susceptible to make those decisions. But I think the answer is rethinking how we think of justice. Like certain countries treat their prisoners much better and have a lot more success with lowering crime rates than the US does. And what they do is less punitive and it's more reformation based.
Reasons that I take them every day.
Some kids need them because they have parents.
No!
I'm just saying.
Very nice.
Okay, so Charles, if we're going to exit this conversation, if we find a point of agreement, it's that this perimeter of ignorance, we recognize inside the perimeter there are forces operating against free will.
Yes.
Our physiology, our neurochemistry, and physics.
Yes.
That surely that perimeter may grow.
Yes.
But it's possible that there's a limit to how far it will grow.
Yes.
Beyond which we have to admit the existence of free will.
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you that.
There
Very nice.
we are.
That's a great job.
It doesn't have to be absolute in one direction or another.
It's a bit more fluid. Okay.
I'm okay with that. There is.
Okay, yeah. I mean, for me, it is a little bit more absolute. I think the idea of free will is absolutely a human invention. I don't think it's something that exists outside of our conversations about it. I think that we really want free will to exist because that's the illusion we live in. We want to believe that everything in our experience is aligned with truth. And I don't think that's true at all. I mean, that's definitely not true. Like, you can be fooled by your senses, and your senses aren't giving you objective truth all the time. You're interpreting things. So I just think free will is one of those things where we interpret the world and our interactions with the world to be based on some innate choice that we have that is able to change the direction of all these different processes internally, but rather than all these internal process being us and our decision making in itself. So yeah, it's an interesting topic though. Definitely up for debate still. I don't completely understand the side of free will. If you have some reasoning, put it down in the comments. Maybe you could change my mind, but for now, I don't think there's any free will. I'll catch you guys on the next video.